Why shrooms aren't working for you. Come on, fix my life, will ya? No. You take mushrooms, have a mind-melting experience, tell all your friends how it's changed your life forever. You're more empathetic, open-minded, less depressed, but then 6 to 12 months pass and all of your old habits are back. You're broke and in the same place you were in before. Like, what the f***? I think many of us have been here. I'd certainly have, especially at the beginning of my psychedelic journey. And I've met many people along the way who's had this issue. Dude, I sacrificed relationships and a lot of my reputation because psychedelics, man, they're weird. You know how many people look at me and I'm just some druggo because I tend to talk about altered states of consciousness and the power of psychedelics. Like, it sounds crazy to you normie. Like, really, mate? Drugs, mushrooms, those things that make you go cuckoo, these toxins, you're telling me that that's good for you? Tell me that that helps with your personal growth and spirituality? What about Dave? I knew a kid who jumped out of a freaking window. What about Matt? He lost his mind. What about Davo? He takes mushrooms and he claims all this shit, but his room's a bloody mess, mate. He's a hippie. To this, I would say, you just don't understand. And don't get me wrong, I'm still all for the power of the mushroom. But the issue isn't with the shroom itself. It's with the person using it. It's like conventional wisdom. I think many industries across all categories of life, a lot of us, because of human nature and ego and clinging on to the old, we hold on to outdated beliefs and practices, and it takes a long time for the collective society to actually change into the cutting edge stuff that works. Multiply this with ego and delusion, it's even more difficult to get the most out of any tool or methodology. Proof? Think about it. There's more practical information on how to get rich online that absolutely works. Same thing with health, relationships, and happiness. Yet most of us are broke and unfulfilled. Is it the information, methods, tools, and strategies? It's the lack of execution and integration by most people. And you hear this a lot, integration, especially by me, as if you followed my channel. What is integration? How do you actually integrate these experiences in a practical way that grounds these abstract insights into physical reality? And not just grounding them into reality, but making it stay there sustainably. So I don't know about you, but man, I've been so frustrated in the past where you think like, yes, I've finally got a hold of whatever problem that I have, like letting go of this addiction or letting go of depression or anxiety. And you think that you've conquered it, and then really it just kind of hid in the background. It's like, no, I haven't gone anywhere, mate. And it's like, oh, fuck. I thought I got rid of you. And it's like, yeah, nah, mate. It can be frustrating. But to get back on integration, as Carlos Castaneda said, a man of knowledge lives by acting, not by thinking about acting. Even eating 5 grams in silent darkness ain't gonna fix your problems, bro. I might give you a hell of a story, though. So I'm just about to talk about my last heroic mushroom dose. I pull out my journal. I shit you not. The first page, I just went like this, and look what it says. I don't know if you can read it there. This was my intention going into my heroic dose, which is a big mistake, which we're going to get into. My intention is to get some deep healing and to purge out fear and any other negativity that's holding me back. What is the theme? Fear, darkness, purging, healing. Healing implies you're sick. Purging out fear implies that you have fear to purge out. And facing your negativity implies that you have negativity to face. This is the problem with identifying with these negative behavior patterns instead of energies that kind of flow in and out. So I took a heroic dose to face my demons and level up my spirituality. And boy, did I face my demons. I took 7.5 grams of psilocybe subaeruginosa, which is probably equivalent to 15 grams of cubensis. My physical body disintegrates and my soul turns inside out. I'm crying and pleading because of how painful it is. My teeth literally falls out. My body broke down atom by atom while I was screaming in agony while being stuck in a terror loop. 7 eternities later, after facing the devil and having my sanity tested, I re-entered normal reality. Now, of course, I had to justify my dark experience, so I claimed all these Jungian shadow work progression. I believed it, but deep down I knew it wasn't true. I was just using mushrooms to spiritually bypass my problems. The truth is, I traumatized myself and had to use mental transmutation and logotherapy to make it okay, which is definitely better than dwelling and crying over it. You don't always have to go to the darkest depths to grow. You know what I mean? Because the darkness, it's going to come eventually. You don't have to actively seek it out. Because technically, I could go out in the slums of Brazil, get brutally beaten to an inch of my life, have a near-death experience, and maybe even grow from that experience and learn something from it. But it would be pretty silly to go out of my way to do that, you know what I mean? To put my life in jeopardy. Some people get scarred from overloading their psyche with psychedelics, especially when they have heavy psychological burdens. Working out is great for muscle growth, but if you lift too heavy with improper technique, failing to stretch beforehand and neglecting the right nutrition afterwards, you're going to hurt yourself more than help yourself. Yet this is how many approach psychedelics and spirituality. I was using spiritual bypassing instead of doing the real work. We think about acting more than actually acting, you know? And this is a part of human nature. It reminds me of that Louis C.K. bit. So he's in a plane in first class and this military guy walks past and he thinks, you know what? I should give my seat to this guy. You know what I mean? And he starts feeling good, like, oh my God, I'm such a good person for thinking about that thing that I'm never gonna do. And of course, he doesn't give his seat to this military guy, but it still makes you feel good for even thinking about doing it. I'm definitely guilty of this. Sometimes I just think of doing something good and you get like this dopamine boost, like, yeah. So you're gonna do it? Nah. I just wanna marinate in this, good feeling. Yeah, I feel so good about myself, build my self-esteem. I know this psychedelic spiritual journey can be very isolating, but it's only isolating because you make it isolating for yourself, especially in this age of the internet where there's communities everywhere. Join a community, don't do this by yourself. Think of any success story in sports or business or art or whatever it is. They always have a community, they always have mentors, they always have people who help them progress and friends to lift them up. No one does this shit by themselves. So to think that you can do it by yourself, that's a red flag. It's a narcissistic ego red flag, and I would stamp that program out immediately. Not integrating, not eating healthy, not exercising, not working on your career, not humbling yourself and getting a coach or mentor is why shrooms ain't working for you. Psychedelics are non-specific amplifiers of consciousness. This means that whatever's inside your mind is going to be magnified and intensified. Mushrooms are not objective medicines that fix your life. Every medicine in the world can be straight up deadly poison depending on dose, but more importantly, how you use it. Some people can die from freaking peanuts, bro. Peanuts! So you don't think shrooms is going to severely damage someone psychologically? Maybe they have a certain psychological frame or genetic makeup. I don't know. Not all human beings are cut from the same cloth. Honestly, I think some people should stay the hell away from psychedelics. And sometimes it's hard to know who. Obviously, you know, there are the obvious ones, like if you have schizophrenia or severe mental health problems, like bipolar. That's when things can get really dangerous. If you have a peaceful state of mind inside your heart, this could get amplified into nirvana, enlightenment. But if you're this timid wallflower, this could easily get amplified into extreme anxiety and fear. This could even turn into full-blown paranoia that the people that you're with are against you, they're conspiring against you. This is why dealing with your heavy psychological burdens before going into a psychedelic experience is essential. Using mushrooms as the only tool to deal with your mental problems is a recipe for disaster. It's like using a chainsaw to sharpen your pencil. I mean, it can be done, I guess, if you're extremely skilled, but it's so overkill and risky that it's not worth the cheese. A pattern that I've noticed is that if you have this tendency to escape reality, not deal with your relationships, can't even like sit still without having to distract yourself and can't be alone with your thoughts, then depending on the situation, using mushrooms can make this worse. It can, you know, because the ego is very sneaky that way, and this is where we get into spiritual ego or spiritual bypassing. Like, honestly, if you want to get high and take drugs and escape, just own that fact. Because I've gone through these stages of denial where I used things like weed and these kind of drugs to just escape from reality, but I would justify it like, oh no, I'm doing this because it's good for me, it helped me with X, Y, Z, like using rationalizations. I have this long list of pros to make myself feel better, but it's because I was so insecure I couldn't accept it. But once you accept, like, you know what, I'm getting high because I want to get high. I like to trip out. I want to escape my reality. My life is hard right now. I don't know what to do. Just let me have an escape, you know? At least being honest with yourself will make a night and day difference in processing this versus just bullshitting yourself. Tell the truth, especially to yourself. As the first agreement states, be impeccable with your word. But rationalizing taking drugs like it's a healthy way to heal your depression is a red flag for mental problems. This is particularly true when mixing psychedelics with ketamine, weed, alcohol, junk food, and other stimulations. Like Terence McKenna alluded to, psychedelics don't work on stupid people.
It has to do with your own intelligence. Truly stupid people aren't interested in psychedelics because they can't figure out what the point of it is. It feeds off intelligence. It's a consciousness-expanding drug. If you don't have any consciousness, it can't expand it.
You got to be especially careful if you're narcissistic, but unfortunately the cruel joke that nature has played is that the more narcissistic you are, the less likely you're going to be aware of it. The more you gaslight, the more mental gymnastics you play on yourself. The more you can use psychedelics as this messiah complex, where you build your ego to this point where you think you're special, you're this enlightened prophet. I've known people who allegedly received messages from the mushroom that they must stop this other person in the psychonaut community because he's not talking about them the right way, and it's your duty to stop them. Pro tip, if the message of the mushroom gods is to propagate the dark arts of gossip, I'm sorry to say, but you've been duped by narcissism. I never understood this whole gossip thing, especially in the psychedelic community. We're such a small niche group that gets targeted by the law. Most of this stuff is illegal in most countries in the world, you know? It's so heavily stigmatized, and when I see psychonauts in the community gossiping and talking shit about each other, it's just, it's fucking gross, bro. You take these psychedelics to claim that you're spiritual and ego and open-minded and empathetic, but only if you think like me. That's why narcissism and psychedelics do not go hand in hand very well. And unfortunately, it makes it very hard. It blinds the person. They get hypnotized into this trance almost. Because when you're convinced, you're convinced. Again, it's all about emotions grabbing you more than thinking rationally. This happens more often than you may think. And it's tragic, man. It breaks my heart because you see at the beginning of this journey that they have such a loving, kind, empathetic, genuine soul. But then you see over time, through years, and it's like, you can't even deny it because you see it. They start to gain weight, the dark circles, they start to degrade over time. This is the same pattern that possesses some spiritual gurus creating cults. Honestly, I always look at getting offended as a massive red flag. Getting offended because someone thinks in a different way than you. And I've been in that place where I'll be so enthralled by whatever I believe in that when someone would have an opposite viewpoint, I would get triggered, but huge red flag. And that was when my life was down the toilet. That was when I was angry, when I was addicted, when I was going through all these destructive habits, you know? That's why I think that bad trips can be a blessing in disguise, especially when you're going on this path. Sometimes. This is all context building for dealing with the psychological burdens that you have buried in your psyche so that it doesn't just get amplified and recreated in the psychedelic experience, and then you use that to as your personality armor, you know, spiritual bypassing. Ego's sneaky, mate. Very sneaky. My point is, when you use this as the only tool and you don't do anything else, right? Like, you still eat like shit, you don't make your bed, you don't have coaching or therapy or have a community or don't have a goal for yourself, some sort of career or skills that you can develop, you know, things like this. Like, if you don't have anything going for you in your life and you just focus on psychedelics to heal yourself and to advance on the spiritual path, that's when they become a big trap, and that's when they don't work for people. And sometimes it can be genetics. I know people who take massive doses and it doesn't work. So sometimes genetics can actually play a part, and some people are more sensitive. My wife, for example, she could take 1 gram of mushrooms and go deeper than most of you could with 10 grams. Even when I do ayahuasca, half of my experiences, I didn't get anything from it. And I noticed that the more psychological blockage I have, the more I'm clinging on to these mental patterns, the harder it is to really let go and enter these spaces, you know, and get the most out of it. It's human nature to look for shortcuts, these mental heuristics, to try to find the path of least resistance to get the most benefit. And sometimes there are these paths. Sometimes there are, like, you know, low-hanging fruit, where you get the most reward for the least amount of effort. But sometimes, I mean, look at meditation versus Xanax. They both tackle the same thing. Like, let's say if you're trying to be more relaxed and less stressed, more calm, Xanax is going to get you there way quicker, guaranteed. Whereas meditation, you got to do it every day, and you got to do it for ages. Sometimes it takes time. It's like, screw meditation, bro. Really, I have to do this for like 2 months to even feel somewhat benefits? And okay, I might feel a little bit of alleviation, but the anxiety's still there. Whereas Xanax, boom. But does that mean we should take Xanax for every time we feel a little bit of anxiety? Oh, take my Xanax. But I hope that we all know the danger of relying on external substances to change an internal state. Whoop. Sorry, bro. Sometimes you gotta do the slow, hard, boring stuff. And I hate that I feel like a broken record here, but it's like, come on, man, go for a run. Just, like, you know what I mean? Like, just, all the information's there, so I'm not even gonna get into it, but just take care of your physical health, your mental health, your wealth, your relationships, all this kind of stuff. I'm a massive believer in the power of mushrooms, especially in the smaller doses for just increasing neuroplasticity. And I have a ADHD brain, and mushrooms tend to help me with this. So every once in a while, I'll have a little dose and a little bit of a brain boost, like a nootropic, you know what I mean? And when I go into the heavier doses, I don't rely on this. I don't go into this from this healing perspective, like, I need to heal myself because I'm sick and I need to deal with my problems. I don't do that anymore. Once I changed that mentality, everything changed. If I get something out of it, awesome. If I don't, whatever. Sometimes it's nice to just reconnect with the mystery of life, you know, kind of reconnect, and that's it. I don't expect anything from it anymore, because my life is awesome with or without it. And paradoxically, when you let go of the need to heal or grow from psychedelics, that's probably when you might actually grow from them the most. But at that point, you're like, I'm good. Like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, whatever. And this is how you get shrooms to work for you, not against you. And that's not to rely on them, especially when you're at this really tough place in life and you got nothing else going for you, and you use mushrooms as like this jump start to get you started. No bueno. I'm a big proponent of getting a coach or a guide or a mentor, someone to help you along this process, to save you the time and effort and heartache from trying to do it by yourself. That's ego, that's narcissism. I don't need anyone, I can do this by myself. Yes. But we're a collective species, human beings. We are, yes, Homo sapiens. We're social creatures. So before you kind of rely on this need to like, I need mushrooms to fix me, it's like, you gotta ask, where is this actually coming from? Is it coming from a genuine place, or is it coming from a place of me trying to take shortcuts? And then you look back in your life and like, do I tend to take shortcuts in my life? You gotta be honest with yourself. So I am gonna share some harsh truths that may trigger some of you, not all of you, but some of you. And I say this just from a place of trying to be a good mate here. And it's not even that controversial, really. These are things that not only that I've applied in my own life that has helped me tremendously, but take myself out of the picture. Read any psychology, philosophy, or self-development book, and you're going to see these patterns reappearing over and over and over again. And doing this, plus using mushrooms to amplify your life, that's when you'll get much more out of it. Not that I recommend it, of course, because, disclaimer, psychedelics, bad, illegal. No, don't do it. But if you do this. Upgrading your peer group. So if all your mates are lazy stoners or drinkers who only look forward to the weekend to party and hate their life on the weekdays, then I have bad news for you. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if your peer group are losers, then leave and join a new group. And this sounds harsh, and it is to some degree, but what's even more harsh is what you're doing to yourself, especially in 10 to 20 years. Because if your life sucks now and you continue on that same path, oh man, it gets so much worse. That shit compounds. The good life compounds just as the bad life compounds. There's no such thing as stagnation. You're either getting worse or you're getting better. Don't be loyal just for the sake of being loyal. This almost ruined my life, where I stayed with my toxic friends who only lived to escape reality instead of hanging out with higher caliber people. Be loyal to your higher self, to your potential self. If you think life is bad now in your teens or in your 20s, if you keep doing what you're doing, your 40s and 50s are going to be straight up hell. Why do you think suicide is much more common in men in their 40s and 50s? It's because 20s and 30s, I'm like, yeah, their life wasn't perfect, but they just kind of went with the motions until all those bad habits compound until it turned into this giant monster. And now they're 40 and 50 and it's like, oh, fuck, what have I done? Hang out with people who share future goals, not just your history. An easy hack to snapping out of your own bullshit and kind of getting the most out of mushrooms and getting into that space is to step outside yourself. Do something for someone else. Be of service. Be useful to society. This could be as simple as volunteering to a charity or even giving money away or using your skills and knowledge to help other people, to teach. Get a fucking mentor. Now, I've been saying this for years, and if there was one single advice that I could give my younger self is just get a fucking mentor. And I have sporadically throughout many years, but then there'll be a long gap where I just wouldn't. Especially when I think anyway, things are going okay, I'm comfortable. Always get a mentor. And in all areas of life, right? Like if you're trying to learn tennis, get a tennis teacher. You're going to grow 10x faster than just trying to do it by yourself watching videos. Trying to heal by yourself is going to take so much longer than having a good therapist. Trying to grow your career by yourself is going to take you 10 years, which could take you 1 year with a good coach. So whether you're developing skills, integrating psychedelic experiences, or progressing on your spiritual path, or whatever it is in life, get a mentor, get a mentor, get a mentor, get a mentor. Don't use money as an excuse. You need to tell your subconscious that you're worth investing. Think about multimillionaires and billionaires, or the greatest tennis player of all time, or Michael Jordan, or anyone on the top of their game. Like, these are the best of the best of the best, and even they still have mentors. They still get coaching. And then you get broke drug addicts who think they don't need one. You know what I mean? Like, it's a mentality shift. Really, really think about this. Your outside reality is a manifestation of how your internal reality operates. And if you think you're above getting a mentor, getting a coach, you're playing this game of life on super hard mode. And life goes quick, man. It goes quick. Take care of your health. The healthier your body is, the healthier your mind will be. Then next time you go into the psychedelic experience, like mushrooms, nausea will be much less. You have much less turmoil, way less chance for turmoil, and the experiences will probably get through easier, and you'll get more out of it that way. And journaling. This is one I will recommend every single day, and not just when you have a motivational spurt or when you're in a dark night of the soul and you feel like you need to express. Do it all the time, every day. Writing improves your thinking. Thinking improves the way you speak, and how you speak will determine how far you get in life, since this is a social matrix. Writing will help you gain more focus and clarity, will improve your creativity, will improve your introspection. You can go back and actually see patterns, because memories, they come and they go, man. But when you write it down, you're immortalizing this, Journaling is a huge part of integration. Imagine doing like a 4-year degree at school and not writing anything down. You're going to forget most of it. But if you write everything down, you go back to it, your brain absorbs it better, you integrate it within your being. And it's also a good way to process your emotions and feelings. A couple prompts that I can share to get you started on the journaling so you don't have an excuse is, what are 10 wins that I had today? Look for little wins, even if it's making your bed or having a shower or drinking water. Do what you can to build that self-esteem and positive psychology. Second prompt is, what drained my energy today? Why? Knowing what gives you energy and what drains your energy will tell you a lot about who you are and what you should be focusing on. and also the path that you should avoid, which is just as important. 3, what did I learn today? 4, what's one thing I can do tomorrow to make the rest of my week easier? There's so much more to dive into, but I think that's enough for today, especially when it comes to psychedelic integration. But if you follow even some of these hacks that I've shared today, you'll get so much more out of the mushroom experience and lessen the chances for adverse effect. If you got some value out of this video and you wish to see more, then subscribe to this channel, like the video, share it around, and if you want to go even deeper, then consider supporting us on Patreon or checking out my website. Much love, and I'll see you on the other side. Peace.